Hey, what's up you guys, and welcome back. And if you're new to my channel, welcome. I'm Rami G, and I narrate creepy and scary stories on the internet so you don't have to read them alone. So, sit back, relax, and don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. And also turn on that bell notification to let you know when another video drops. Roll that intro. I'm going to go back to my roots, and we're going to start with some creepypastas. And these are not just any regular creepypastas like Jeff the Killer, Slender Man, Smiling Dog, Ben Drowned, any of those. Those will come later. These are 4 of the least known creepypastas. And also, YouTube has made it possible to make chapters, so now you don't have to wait or blindly fast forward. I took the liberty in making these into chapters, so you can choose which one you want to hear first, or if you don't want to hear one, just skip to the next one. Alright guys, let's go with story number 1. The rainy season began in early summer, and June had been no exception. It didn't surprise the man when he discovered rainwater dripping from the dining room ceiling. Shrugging it off, he placed a tall pot beneath the leak and expected it to stop on its own. However, it continued to rain, and before he knew it, the pot would threaten to overflow. He had to dump the water out first thing in the morning and straight after he returned from work. Eventually, he began to notice water damage at the source of the leak. The white ceiling had discolored, turning a dull shade of brown. He checked with the weather and realized that it would continue to rain sporadically over the next 10 days. The man was worried about the ceiling mildewing or becoming an expensive repair, so he called the local handyman. Unfortunately, the man couldn't sign to have the repairs done. Only the landlord could. It was a frustrating policy. The man called the landlord but could not reach him. He left a few voicemails detailing how the damage had become progressively worse. The man was clueless as to why the landlord would not return his calls. They usually keep in touch, speaking at least twice a month. Finally, he reasoned with the handyman that he would not be held accountable for any of the damages sustained. One night, the man was startled awake by a massive thump. He quickly turned on his bedside lamp, and just vaguely, he could see an overturned table and a large shape laying across it. He sprinted out of his apartment and called the police, gagging at the smell. The man sat at the police station with a blanket wrapped around his shoulders and a coffee mug resting in his hands. He did know one thing: there had been a dead body in the ceiling, and the water had saturated it so badly that it caved under the weight. So far, the body was unidentifiable due to the rainwater as it was being autopsied. While the man waited, he called the landlord and finally reached him. Panicking as he explained the situation, his landlord was just as alarmed as he was, and the man pleaded for him to come to the station while he made a statement. The man paused as the detective crossed over him, and he lowered his phone, wondering if the body had been identified. His blood ran immediately cold, and he shook his head with terror. The body belonged to Richard Thompson, his landlord, and he had died over a year ago. That's not what disturbed him the most. If his landlord was dead, then who was pretending to be him? In Berlin, after World War II, money was short, supplies were tight, and it seemed like everyone was hungry. At the time, people were telling the tale of a young woman who saw a blind man picking his way through a crowd. The two started to talk. The man asked her for a favor. Could she deliver the letter to the address on the envelope? Well, it was on her way home, so she agreed. She started out to deliver the message. When she turned around to see if the blind man needed anything else, but she spotted him hurrying through the crowd without his smoked glasses and white cane. She went to the police, who raided the address in the envelope, where they found heaps of human flesh for sale. And what was in the envelope? This is the last one I'm sending you today. Of course, the letter speaking of her. She was the last victim for that day. I've always had a terrible fear of being submerged completely underwater. Not that I can't swim or anything. My dad made me learn. He said I almost drowned when I was really young. I was afraid of it because for as long as I can remember, whenever I am underwater and look up at the surface, I see a woman reaching down to me with a warm smile, with glowing golden hair and dark blue eyes. Even if it's just in the bathtub, it always happened. It was just normal to me, but I never got used to it. It was unnerving, but also soothing at the same time. She always made me feel like if it was okay. I still avoided it though, because I was just a kid and it was really freaky. I never told my dad about it as a kid, but I did ask him about my mom. He never wanted to talk about her. Sometimes he even got mad for me trying so hard to bring it up. It was only recently that I described this apparition to him. He nearly drove into a telephone pole. Obviously he knew something. I asked him again about my mom. He still wouldn't say much, except that she died when I was very young, and that she loved me very much. He also admitted that her hair and eyes were those colors, just like mine. So I did some research on my own, looking up her name for myself on my birth certificate, and trying to find any reference I could. Any news clippings about a boy nearly drowning, anything. I mostly wanted a picture, something I could match to my guardian angel. Today, buried in our own town library, I found it. Winchester, Marie Whitty, 28, drowned to death yesterday evening after climbing a razor wire fence and fleeing to a nearby reservoir. A funeral was scheduled by her family for the 25th. Marie was institutionalized just 6 months ago after being found not guilty on attempted murder on the grounds of insanity. Her husband, Daniel Withy, had acted quickly enough to rescue their infant child when she was found trying to drown him in the bathtub. I'm old. Right now I'm 81 years old, and had to ask my granddaughter for help writing this down. You see, I have a confession to make before I go. My name is Emma, and I have a sister named Elizabeth, Lisa for short. Having been born only 1 year apart, we were really close and looked very alike. One could say we were fraternal twins. Lisa and I had always been best friends. We shared everything. We slept together in the same bedroom until our early adulthood, and every night we would cheerfully tell each other about our day. For the first 20 years of my life, Lisa was my whole world. When she was 21, my sister moved from home because she got married. I started to work as a first grade teacher, and both our worlds expanded, but our friendship remained unaffected. She chose a house close to our parents so we could still talk and see each other nearly every day. We shared all our secrets to each other. That's why I know how much Lisa and her husband Dylan loved each other. They were soulmates, a match truly made in heaven. Back then, men were way more violent and sexist than they are today, but not Dylan. Dylan was a sensitive man, gentle, respectful, and very good to my sister. One could think I would be jealous of them, but I was tremendously happy for her. I was feeling pretty good about my life too. I loved being a teacher and I had a lot of other friends and interests. Besides, I was still living with my parents to save money and buy a house without depending on a husband, an old dream of mine. Lisa and Dylan lived an absolutely perfect marital life for 2 years. He would waltz her through the kitchen when he got home, and would thank Lisa for choosing him and being such an angel. When Lisa was 23, she got pregnant. Lisa had always wished to be a mother, and it was such a good fit for her. She was so patient and kind. I was sure that all her kids would be as nice as their parents. By the time she was 30, she was already the mother of 3 beautiful chubby kids. She couldn't be happier, and I couldn't be happier for her. Besides, I was where I wanted to be in my life too. I don't want to say we grew apart, but we certainly are busier in our lives. I traveled the world, learned 6 languages, and was even a bit more of an intellectual. We started a tradition to go apple picking every year, using identical dresses. It was funny and silly because we were 2 adult ladies, but we didn't care. We loved funny and silly. The year was 1966. Lisa was 30 and I was 29. And Dylan stayed home with 3 kids as usual. I still remember him telling us to have fun, that he would make sloppy joes for him and the 2 bigger kids, ages 6 and 3, and our mother would help with the baby. We were the only ones in the field of apple trees that day. It struck me as odd, but I was too excited to catch up with my sister. After 20 minutes or so, Lisa started to shake and sweat. Lisa, are you okay? It's been happening for a few weeks now. Maybe it's some complications after my last pregnancy. When we get back, I'll schedule a doctor for you, I said. But just a few seconds after, a darkness, darker than anything, came from both nowhere and everywhere, and it enveloped her. She screamed, but it was so fast that she sounded muffled and distant. The darkness retreated to the natural shadows of the trees, and I couldn't identify it anymore, no matter how desperately I searched the whole field. This was followed by an obscene wet noise of chomping. The dark thing, was eating my sister alive. In less than a minute, nothing of the sweet person I loved more than anything remained in this world. Nothing but the precious apples she had picked in the basket. I was traumatized, overwhelmed, devastated. I didn't even know the words of what I felt for me. My career and personal goals were over. I was now the mother of 3 and married to a good man I respected, but obviously didn't love. But I had to do it for them. The kids can't grow up without their mother. Dylan would languish without Lisa. She was his whole world. She was the kids' whole world. Hell, she still was kind of my whole world. Lisa just shone brighter. You couldn't even feel jealous because she would welcome everyone into her light. I looked up to her every second of my life. We had 2 other siblings that I cared a great deal for, but she was my beloved sister, more beloved than anything. I would be less missed. People would suffer less. Giving up my life was a price I was willing to pay, so people wouldn't have to go through the horrible loss of Lisa. Even though I had already bought my own house, I instinctively drove to my parents'. I guess it still felt like home for me. While I was cutting my hair in our old bedroom between sobs, my father showed up at the door. Emma, did something happen? The way I looked at him was enough for an understanding beyond words. Is Lisa gone? I lightly nodded. I'm taking your place. Please don't tell anyone. People won't miss me as much. He hugged me. Honey, what you're doing is beautiful. I love you both so much. I'm so sorry I never told you that people in our family, well, they disappear. We are haunted by something I don't even understand. It seems like a dark and powerful force. When it comes for someone, it is impossible to survive. He was crying too. I wish I could protect you girls, I really do, but I can't. It's okay, Dad. It's okay. What else could I say? After that, life went on. I told police I saw a shadow take my sister, and they obviously misinterpreted that as someone stealthy kidnapping her. The search went on for months, but without a clue. It eventually stopped. The missing person poster started to disappear from streets, replaced by new lost people or advertising of some sort. Emma started to fade from existence. A year later, my parents held a symbolic funeral since nobody was ever found. I mourned for a long time, and Dylan was nothing but comprehensive. I made an effort to learn to love this man. I obviously loved my nieces and nephew, but I never thought of myself as a mother type, so I had to learn that as well. I think I did a good job being Elizabeth. I eventually started to love Dylan. I birthed 2 kids, and I love my sister's kids as much as I love my own. I miss my house and my teaching job, but otherwise, I was able to fit right in. My father took my secret to his grave. When my mother was on her deathbed, I confessed to her what happened. But other than that, no one else knew who I really was. I raised 5 children, all of them turned out at least alright. They gave me 12 grandchildren and even gave me 2 great-grandchildren. Dylan died 5 years ago. I never told him. His life was too happy for him to find out that it was built in a lie. I'm now telling this story to my family and to the world because after Dylan and I are gone, it won't matter anymore. Lately I've been sweating and shaking every day, and a feeling of doom and heaviness started to take over me. It can be just because I'm old, but I don't think that's the case. Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today. Hopefully you all enjoyed this new style of editing, and hopefully you all found the chapters selection down below really useful. So give me some feedback, guys. I would really appreciate it, just to make videos better for you guys, because you guys are the ones that watch it. So until next time, guys, sweet dreams.